Right, it is indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while. I've not seen you guys in around 3 weeks. And happy to be back again. This is the 3rd of June 2026. Happy new month. And this is, I think, should be the 13th episode of the Tackle in 2026. 14, 15. All right, it's the 15th episode of 2026. And as usual, it's always a pleasure to have you. When you join in, please we get to know that you're watching us. And also, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. So we are airing this episode at a time when there are some very huge conversations in Kenya. I mean, everybody is giving an opinion now. Everybody is a doctor. We are Ebola experts suddenly. And we're also quarantine facilities experts, and we're also diplomatic experts. On the other hand as well, we are also financial experts. We're talking about the finance bill, and we're talking about the future and the economy of this country. And everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has things to say about how the country is doing. But always, please, it's a pleasure to have you. When we get to know you're watching us. But please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. It is the 15th episode of 2026. And this morning, we want to have a conversation around the economics of this country. Of course, the finance bill, and we want to debunk something called Ndindi-Nomics. And if you know Ndindi, you know there's been economics that he's been speaking about. He's been having press conferences, speaking on the state of the economy of the country, and also giving comments on the finance bill. So we have an expert this morning who is going to take us through that conversation, and he will help us to debunk, tell us the truth, what he say, what our friend Ndindi has to say, and giving us a flip side of it. So we have Ndung'u Mirii, who is a finance and economic and accounting expert. So if you have any questions, please send it our way on the comment section, and we'll be able to handle them. But first, we begin with the headlines. Okay, the Star newspaper, Gazeti, the Star newspaper was the headline saying, "Why Somali vote shaping as game changer in Ruto 2027 two-term bid." Okay, in mambo ya siasa, and some president has employed multi-pronged tactic to who the region. The president presided over the Madaraka Day in Wajir County this year, and this is the first time that we're having a national event in Wajir, and also Northern Kenya at large. And people seem to be making observations on it, in the fact that it could be the accumulation and also the formation and the bringing together of the tyranny of small numbers. Okay, we're also looking at a big read engineer who helped shape the country's renewable energy. News, bar and campus ban. State tightens up grip on university operations. Court to rule on Utumishi and probe teams time appeal. Because you're aware of the incident at Utumishi Academy. Poleni sana to the families and the community of Utumishi Academy. There was heavy security at the Naivasha Law Court yesterday as 9 students linked to the deadly Utumishi Girls Academy dormitory fire were arraigned. The fire, which broke out last week on Thursday at a school in Gilgil, Nakuru County, claimed the lives of 16 students. 7 others were admitted to Kenyatta National Hospital with burn injuries, and prosecution is seeking to detain the students for 30 days pending the completion of investigations. Shame of using pieces of mattress as sanitary towels. For many girls, using sanitary pad is a routine part of life. But for 13-year-old Samwai Abdullah, not a real name, from Marsabit County, it remains a luxury that you can only dream of. That's the issues of girl child. U.S. team opposes Ebola quarantine project. U.S. House team opposes Ebola. Disease burden. Activists carry a mock coffin as they protest in Nairobi CBD yesterday against the proposed establishment of an Ebola quarantine facility in Kenya. Okay, People Daily. Tobacco industry news, a playbook of influencers, flavors and fronts. Kenya shillings 1 trillion stall project burden weighing Ruto down ahead of 2027 polls. Fire on the mountain, volcanic anger. Often known for political maturity and tolerating divergent views, region has recently seen protest, end in violence, death and looting, begging the question, why is Mount Kenya so angry? The story is on page 4. Maybe also Ndung'u will tell us why, because he comes from the mountain. He'll tell us why the mountain is erupting and why Mount Kenya is so hungry. Okay? There's a time in politics where we only knew it's a southern region who are throwing stones and violence and looting, but now we are seeing it in new territories. Take them home. That is the standard. Firestorm. Some of America's leading public health experts have joined growing criticism on the Ebola quarantine center in Kenya as the opposition codes and activists step up their resistance. Former CDC officials, infectious disease physicians, and epidemiologists have warned U.S. leaders that sending Ebola-exposed Americans to Laikipia would be a dangerous break from long-standing medical practice, raising profound clinical, ethical, and operational and legal concerns as President William Ruto defends the deal that experts say citizens ought to be treated in the U.S. or at the source of infection. Okay, there you have a picture of Donald Trump and a demonstrator who is saying reject Ebola in Kenya. Okay, I wonder though if protests are enough to reject a pandemic. That if you demonstrate long enough, then we'll not have the pandemic. But anyway, the Daily Nation, Ruto allowed U.S. to bring Ebola patients, owning up. President Ruto acknowledges he accepted the request by President Trump for Kenya to host a quarantine and treatment facility for Americans exposed to Ebola at Laikipia Air Base in Nanyuki, even as public opposition to plan grows. Court order: High Court extends orders blocking the setting up of the Ebola isolation unit and admission into Kenya of persons exposed or infected with Ebola. State directed to make public the secret agreement with the U.S. Too little, too late. U.S. officials say Saturday's court degree came as flights carrying American specialists and kits were airborne and confirms Foundation works on the Ebola unit. Stories 1, 4, and 5. President William Ruto is quoted as saying, when President Trump asked the government of Kenya to support them by having a center in Laikipia Air Base, I gave them the okay. Okay. Ebola resistance, they're seeing a picture of the mock coffin, and demonstrators in the CBD. Demonstrators marched in Nairobi yesterday during a protest against a U.S.-backed Ebola quarantine facility being established at the Laikipia Air Base in Nanyuki to host Americans exposed to Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Rising auction swallows Kenya's coastline. The story is on page 10. Education 5.3 billion shillings TSC budget gap leaves teachers without insurance cover. Why state wants Utumishi arson suspects detained. The story is on page 2. That is it on the newspaper headlines this morning. And if you wish to make a comment on that, happy to hear what you have to say. Why is the mountain erupting, Bwana Ndung'u? Or you don't come from the mountain? Maybe you can first of all introduce yourself and give us a little brief on who you are. And welcome to the tackle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bitok. I would like first of all to thank you for the opportunity. For making me to come and share my experience and my expertise, my profession on matters economics, finance, and accounting. My name is Ndung'u Mirii. I come from Murang'a County, that's in Kigumo constituency, Kigumo ward. So I come from the mountain. So to answer your question, and I've been in this country since I was born. So at least I understand this country. I've traveled from out Kenya. I've traveled across all the regions in this country. And so I have some bit of history and understanding of how the country has been growing in terms of socio-economic and political arenas. So that's me. Yes.
So why is the mountain erupting? Why is the mountain angry? That is what the headlines, one of the headlines is asking the Standard. For a region that has been known to be very self-preserving, because they preserve the investments, they preserve the infrastructure, but somehow we seem to be seeing a lot of political activity there, including violent protest and looting and destruction of property. Why is the mountain volcanic?
I think it's good that we are discussing this matter in a time like this when we are in 21st century. But somebody would like to ask himself how this protest, these demonstrations are at this particular moment. Because I think there have been a discussion in the country about the growth of our country's economy. And to me, to be honest, is to say there is somewhere, some nuts are not going the way they were going. And you see, when you look at our country's economic landscape, economic architecture, you realize that we have been having different presidents since 1963. And you see, when you look at why this protest is all about, they just erupted in, I think, 2023. Immediately, His Excellency President Ruto took over. I noted there was some protest where some people went and they took some sufurias, they put some sufurias in the head, talks about the cost of living. All of a sudden, but if you can even trace back in the election that we had in 2022, the cost of living then, before they came to 2023, be to expect just an instant, medicine on or cure for our economy struggles. I think in 2022, people had a lot of anger, the whole country. I've come to realize there is a lot of anger, as the newspaper has recorded, from the mountain. If you can put on a measure, relatively, you realize there is a lot of anger. Mostly, being brought out by some few leaders who has been in the mountain, calling themselves maybe kingpin. In our country, we had we did set a very bad precedence of kingpin. Who is the leader of the mountain? Who is the leader of what? And that thing has brought this country to where we are. I hope we will have some time to discuss that. But why there is that protest in Mount Kenya is because when you look even in 2023, somebody can ask himself, in 2022, when people went to election, I think the cost of living then, if you look at the basic homestead economics, what we call the microeconomics, before you even go to macro, which I think President Ruto has tried very much to stabilize this country from where he has found it. Because to me, I will say that the country's economy in 2022 was a cancerous economy. We are suffering from a cancer point of me, economically speaking, and actually it was at stage 4. Okay. I really don't understand. I really thank President Ruto because he has tried to manage that cancer to the extent that people are not even realizing they were in the peak of the economic cancer. And if you go to 2022, just to lay a foundation, you can ask yourself, in 2022, when you look at the prices of unga, for example, it was at 240. If you go to the basic goods which are used in the homestead, for example, sugar, it was around 240 there. The cooking oil was going to 400 per liter. That is the edible oil. You look at the rice, it was over 200. Now, that's in 2022. When we came to 2023, even before a season has started or has been harvested, now I realized there are some people who have put the sufurias in the head. Then I wonder, if you put the sufuria in the head, why don't you even give it a season so that we can see the change that President Ruto that just did set? And President Ruto did set a very good thing. Immediately, he said that we are not going to finance consumption. We are not going to subsidize consumption. We are going to subsidize production because he knows the ripple effect and the economics behind it. And that's when he stopped some of these things which were there, like subsidizing the fuel, so that he subsidized agriculture mostly, because that is the key point. That's the key thing. For an economy to grow, first of all, you need to handle the food security. And immediately from 2023, just that idea only, it brought the flour from 240 to 130. That is 110 per 2 kg of a packet. When you look at that mathematics, then you go to sugar from 240 to 250 over 200 actually. It reduced to 100 shillings per 1 kilogram. You go to rice, it also reduced to 100 the same. Fuel actually came down almost to 160 towards 200. From the prices all the way to close to 400 to 250. And when you do those calculations, then you ask yourself, what has President Ruto done that within 1 year, all these cost of goods in the homestead have come down? That was before even the finance bill came in 2024. So,
but even before you go to the finance bill,
yes,
maybe you can just take us back, because I think we've started off from 2023. Take us back maybe a few years back on the state of the economy. Has it been probably for the last 20 years?
Well, thank you very much. And that's a very
because
good...
for us to understand where we are,
Yes.
I think it's important for us to walk back and realize what exactly are we dealing with, what are the challenges that we built over time.
Yes.
So that even as we're speaking about the wins that we have now, people need to understand where we're coming from.
That's a very good question. In fact, you have really done very well so that we can lay this foundation. Let us ask ourselves. You know, this economy is not the first economy in the world, but we need also to ask ourselves, when did this problem started? Because when you look at, we may not go back to a very long time history, but when I get time next time, God willing, we'll go back to 1884.
Okay.
But for today, not start from 1884 when there was a conference, a Berlin conference in Germany, where the European countries decided how they are coming in Africa to do what we call the partitioning. And let's even come to closer to 1920, because we do not have a lot of time to discuss all what happened. 1920 is when Kenya became officially the colony of Britain. By that time, if you can look from 1920, I try to summarize on that so that we come to 1963. From 1920 to 1963, those are 43 years when we were under the colony of Britain. And you see, when you look at that time, you can look at the economy of our country. How was our Kenya economy doing in terms of infrastructure, economic infrastructure like that? You realize that in that period, all that period, from 1920 to 1963, 43 years, our colonies only constructed 1,800 kilometers of road, tarmac road. That is for 43 years. That means every year they were constructing around 41 kilometers per year. Now, if you come even from, now you started from 1963, when we got independence, you can try to go through what was happening from 1963 for the first up to 1978 when we had the first president. And if you go through the records, and then you say from President Kenyatta from 1978 to 2002, when we had the President Moi, you come to realize that there's something that has been happening that is very awkward, and somebody needs to go through it. If you look at our country, for example, all the way from President Kenyatta, then we come to President Moi. By the time President Moi was leaving this country, because we may not go to details of those years, he left this country at a point where the public debt with our population was 600 billion. So like that, Kenyans like 600 billion. 600 billion. Now 600 billion.
That is in 2012.
That is in
2002, yes.
600 billion. All the years from 1963, the country had only 600 billion. Now, he handed over to President Moi Kibaki. President Moi Kibaki took us for 10 years. A whole 10 years. President Kibaki, only the money that he don't pay for himself, assume he did not pay the public debt for the former president, his predecessor.
Moi.
Yes, Moi. It means that Kibaki only left us with a public debt of 1.3 trillion. Then you add 600 billion for President Moi. That is why Kibaki left us with 1.9 trillion for 10 years. And for him, assuming he did not pay the public debt for the President Moi, it means he only borrowed 1.3 trillion. But let us now go to ask ourselves, this is the economics, how the economics work, if you want to understand. When Moi was there, when Kibaki came, he found Moi was collecting 180 billion for revenue. Our KRI was collecting 180 billion. Annually. The way currently now we are collecting 2.2 trillion. It's good for people to analyze what is that against what. So we are saying what we call the national ordinary tax revenue. That's the money that's collected by KRA from our VAT, from our taxes. We have 3 VATs. That's what I'm saying, that we have the 4 types of VAT or categories. We have the VAT, value added tax. Then we have what we call the income tax, what you are charged when you are in pay, the money you pay as you earn. Then we have the corporate tax, is still included in the income tax. Then the third category, we have said we have the VAT, that's one category, the value added tax, which you get from the manufacturing and all that. Then we have the income tax. Income tax is what is paid by the income for people after you have worked for a certain period of time, say 1 month, continually. That's where you have if you're a person, you pay PAYE. If you're a company, you pay corporate tax. Then you have the third category is what we call the excise duty. Excise duty is what now is paid by is a tax that is charged to some certain category of goods. Maybe beverages, you hear that we have some excise duty on alcohol, soda, cigarette, all these things. Then you have the third category, which is called the custom duty. That's what you pay when you are importing goods or you're exporting goods in and out of country. So President Moi left us with only 600 billion. He was correcting 180 billion revenue. Now, President Kibaki came. From 600 billion debt, he only went up to 1.9. So he grew our public debt by 1.3. But do you get this? When you go to the side of revenue, President Kibaki grew our revenue from 180 to 1 trillion. He actually is the first president now who made us to achieve 1 trillion revenue. So he has grown from 180, he has grown all the way to 1 trillion. So how much have we grown in terms of revenue? That is 800 billion after borrowing how much? Only 1.3. So if that is the mathematics, let us now come from now Kibaki, where we now have the problem. And you see, during this time of Kibaki is when we had the free primary education. This where we had the CDF, that's when it was introduced. And we are within all this borrowing. That's when we had the big infrastructures. Now we can see everybody like Thika Superhighway. Because, I have tried to look for another big infrastructure from Thika Superhighway. That's the only thing that you can connect yourself with. Now let us come now where now Jubilee came in. Because here we have a very big, huge problem, economically speaking. When Jubilee came, they found the country was collecting 1 trillion and we had only 1.9 trillion public debt. They grew this public debt to 8.9 trillion. That is around 9 trillion. Say 9 trillion. But do you know what happened in revenue? We only grew to 1.9 trillion. So 1.9 trillion meaning the growth here in terms of revenue is only 900 billion. Now you are growing 900 billion, the same amount of revenue that Kibaki grew, but Kibaki only borrowed 1.3. Now you have grown our public debt to 7 trillion. Let us ask yourself, if Kibaki only borrowed 1.3 trillion and grew our revenue to 800 billion, how comes you yourself, if you can go relatively, we say, let us grow, after growing 1.3 trillion, why is it that economy did not grow by 800 billion? Then we go to the next 1.3 trillion, then we grow another 800 billion. Then we go to another 1.3 trillion, we grow another 800 billion. Because moving from 1 trillion borrowing to 7 trillion within 10 years, it means there's a problem there.
There's a problem.
Because there's no way you can tell me you have a hardware here or a business, for example, and then you have borrowed only 1 trillion. Let us use that 1 trillion. You are earning 200. You are earning 200. You are earning 100 million from 1 trillion, and then you tell me somebody come and borrow 7 trillion. That is 7 times, but the revenue has only moved from 1 trillion. It has not even hit 2 trillion. That does it mean for 1 trillion, by the time we went to 1.3 trillion, why is it that the revenue was not growing? We go to another 1.3 trillion, another 1.3 trillion. You add all the way to 7 trillion, and you only grow from 1 trillion to 900. And you see, this debt you are borrowing, it is money that you are paying with interest rate. When you go to finance, you realize that the cost of public debt in this country, currently, you are suffering because of this 7 trillion. It has costed, and it is, unless we address that issue from that time, because that's where the problem of this country started. Because this 7 trillion ought to have show us what we call return on investment. Where is the return on investment? You know you cannot borrow 7 trillion and then the revenue is not growing. Because where you according to our constitution, actually, Public Finance Management Act, PFM Act, 220, 221, 226, you read all that articles in our constitution, it says all the money that is going to be borrowed in this country must be for development expenditure. If it is for development expenditure, then I have gone to check why we are having a problem. If you go to Auditor General report, between the year 2018, I will come to 2014 to 2018, but between the year 2018 and 2023, when Jubilee was in its second term, the Auditor General report, you know, Kenyans, the best thing with nowadays, you just need to go to Google, even as they are watching me, just go to Google, just type there at Google. Kenya Auditor General report on public debt borrowing and recurrent expenditure. Just Google that. Auditor General, start with the Auditor General so that you are able to have facts. You realize that Auditor General report is telling us that between 2018 and 2023, when Jubilee was in its second term, and you know that's where they have left us with a very big burden. The Auditor General report says that 2.67 trillion. I am very categorical. I'm going to the point. 2.67 trillion was spent on recurrent expenditure. Recurrent expenditure is now against our constitution. From there, if it is recurrent expenditure, we ought not to have borrowed that money anyway, because there is nothing that we are paying. You know, when Jubilee borrowed all this money, 7 trillion, what was this? They had no public debt, sovereign debt, that they were being pushed. So that money ought to have gone to development expenditure. For us to have 2.67 trillion spent on recurrent expenditure. In fact, it is categorized there. It is fueling the government cars, you know, doing all the other administration recurrent expenditure. Where, when you borrow, you spend that money, you are not spending that money where these youths who are leaving the school from college and university, they will come to work. Because if you use 2.67 trillion between those 2 years, between those years, between 2018 and 2023, the Auditor General report, it means for you to calculate the cost of and let me add something there, 2.67 trillion was recurrent expenditure. 300 billion. The Auditor General has stated, just there, if you Google that, Auditor General report 2018 to 2023, the Auditor General has told Kenyans that 300 billion was untraceable. Untraceable is saying that the money we borrowed, but the Auditor General report, the office that we have given in the mandate in the Constitution to do our audit, to ask now, you are telling Kenyans to pay 300 billion. Yes, give us the receipt.
Where's the money?
Where is the receipt? What was bought? The Auditor General report has just washed his hand. He has said it was untraceable. Now, that is where I think even Gen Zs, and I would like Gen Z to listen this very factually. Just go and Google that. Because why you are suffering is because there is this 2.67 trillion. If you add 300 billion, that is around 2.97 trillion. That is exactly 3 trillion. Do you know what is the cost of public debt on that? This is money we are paying. Remember, Jubilee was borrowing this public debt at a commercial rate. And you see, President Toto has reduced all this public debt to currently, if you go to Treasury Board, it's around 8.5%. If you go to Jubilee, they are borrowing this public debt at 18%, 18.5%.
Commercial rate.
That is crazy. In fact, when our constitution said that we need to use our money prudently, that's what it was saying. You cannot borrow on behalf of our Kenyans if you are not using prudence. Prudence is when you are using wisdom, use knowledge. Ask yourself, when you are borrowing money on behalf of Kenyans, when you have been entrusted in a big office, like Jubilee had that opportunity for 10 years, where did you borrow public debt at 18%? When you go to revenue or the return on investment of this money you are borrowing, you are not earning revenue. What do you expect the country now to do when you leave the office? Because this issue of the contract of 5 years, I think there's a big challenge there. We need to ask ourselves, because it's not your personal money, somebody can just borrow this huge amount of money. Because in the next 5 years, he's leaving. And that is what exactly Jubilee did. And for Kenyans I want to ask, to answer a question people have been asking. It's not everybody who has gone to finance and accounting and economics class. Why Kenyans say there was money during the Jubilee? It was not, you need to ask yourself, money from where? Was it money from revenue or money from public debt? Which now you are told the money you are using, when you borrow 7 trillion, it was possible for somebody to just give you a lollipop for you to keep quiet. When a child is crying, you can give, a child does not know that the stomach, the hunger he has does not need a sweet thing, just a lollipop. But what the Jubilee did, they gave every Kenyan a lollipop. So when you are just, achieving that lollipop, you do not realize that that lollipop is reducing. So by the time you are finishing, the stomach is not full. So the hunger now has found us. So that's why people are saying there was money. Because it is possible to just take young people to what we are calling kazi mutaani.
But is there a time that Kenyans have ever said the economy is good? Nasamanga uchumi ni mbaya throughout. I wish they even had someone who was living in 1920, like you are giving us history. I don't remember a time that Kenyans have said the economy is doing well. Even during Kibaki, as much as we praise Kibaki today, that we say that he gave us... that we are living better during this time. Remember, this is a man who also had resistance on tax. Remember, when he was running the Tulipo Ushuru Tujitegemee campaign. Yes. I mean, he was under serious fire from Kenyans. And I remember even there's a headline on the Standard that time that was saying, life is harder under Kibaki than Moi. Yeah? Yes. That's an headline. So I don't know if there's a time that Kenyans have actually said life was good. I think we look like we appreciate things in the past. Like once a period is gone, you're like, oh, we are better that time. But I don't remember any time that Kenyans have really appreciated. But then you raise a very fundamental point in terms of palliative care. It looks like we're having a lot of economic palliative care. Unga is expensive, subsidize millers. Fuel has gone up, subsidize distributors. But we never really got to treat the problem that we had in terms of if unga is expensive, are you ensuring that we have more production to cover the need? Or are you just giving us a bandage where the wound is there, like the lollipop that you mentioned? And then tomorrow you wake up and realize that you're even more angry than you were yesterday. Yes. But now you give us the scenario as it is now, and you've given us a good history on where we've come from and why we are where we are. Yes. Now, when it comes to, I'd like to have a little transition from issues of debt.
Yes.
And you mentioned that there was a lapse of accountability. Yes. And the Auditor General raised a concern on monies that disappeared, especially the Eurobond, 200-something billion.
Yes.
How do we ensure then that we can have people to be accountable for those things? How do we walk back and claim these monies?
Now, it's not actually, our constitution gave the solution. What I think we need to do is to go back to that constitution. In that Public Finance Management Act, it has given a solution that whether you are in office or you are out of office, they knew somebody can mess up with our public finance management. But the constitution is very explicit. The same where it has said how the money should be spent, then they have our constitution also, you read in the Public Finance Management Act, it says if somebody will, either by directive, listen here, either by directive, that's what the constitution says, or you commit by commission, being the one who was the accounting officer, or by direction, that person, if the money was not spent as per the constitution, should be surcharged at a personal level. Our constitution, when you go to our constitution, that's the best thing. So it doesn't matter whether you leave office or not. If we did not head that cross, I think we could be in a very bad mess. Anyway, the constitution has said that, and that is why I'm saying the Gen Z, the best thing with the Gen Zs and the young people, what I would like them to do is to also, as we ask for our right, which is a right for every Kenyan, because Article 33 of our constitution has given, under the freedom of expression, it has given every Kenyan, and Article 33 of our constitution, that every under the expression freedom of expression, it has given every Kenyan a right to seek and to seek information of the public matters and to receive. You know, there's one thing to seek and to receive. So what the Kenyans, I want them to do, we are seeking this information. Now we want to receive the information about all this public. We need to scrutinize this Auditor General report now. You see, the way we have the much energy we are spending on maybe finance bill and the budget, let us use that vigor, that energy to scrutinize now again together, parallel, because Gen Z are very bright people, young people now. They can chew a gum and they are walking. So what we need, let us chew them together. What is, because the finance bill is financing the public expenditure. This public expenditure, part of it, we are paying 1.3 trillion for public debt. That should be a question. Because this finance bill, for example, I'm just getting to your point. This finance bill is financing what? Number one, we have our capitation, school capitation. We have
couple of the finance bill, Ndung'u.
Yes.
There's a narrative I want you to make us a line,
okay,
or to give us a factual and professional state of things, or to debunk in that sense.
Yes.
The narrative that life is harder now than it was in 2022. How true is that when it comes to metrics of the economy?
Now, you know the challenge we have because of what we call Kenya is a constitutional democracy. And this democracy sometimes is a very expensive affair. Democracy means you can even say it is at night when it is during the day. Because democracy say it is how you feel. Your freedom of expression is there. But let me ask, when does the cost of unga is at 240 at the Jubilee? Now it is, I don't know whether this is down. When it go to 130, is it down or up? Now, if you have 100 shilling you are saving, now we go to sugar from 250 to 140. Is this down or up? Now you go to cooking oil from almost to 400 shillings to now 230. Is this down or up? So when you say it could be, sometimes you can say something politically, but the question is, when you look at all this, when is the cost of the cost of goods high? Now they are very down. They are very down. In fact, let me even give you, if this is not enough, we can even go to the farmers, for example. During all the time during Jubilee government, the coffee prices was 60 shillings per kilogram to 80 shillings. It was ranging 60 shillings to 80 shillings. Now, if you immediately President Ruto came in from 2023 to 2024, the prices of coffee today is 140, 150, 160. Those are the records you can go. Just Google, in Google, the coffee prices. Even you go to my area, Moranga, Kirinyaga, you find people have been paid at 160. That is double of what was being paid just 3 years ago. And I have not seen anywhere coffee was paid 160 during the Jubilee. I would like somebody to give me that. But now, if you have doubled a kilogram of coffee, and you are doubling, and if you go even at production level, during Kibaki, and you come to during Uhuru, the coffee production generally in the country was coming down. From Kibaki, the Jubilee administration brought the coffee production holistically in the country down, up to around 34,000 metric tons. All the way from 48, 45 during Kibaki. All the way, during Uhuru, we came down up to 34,000 metric tons. But do you know what has happened during President Ruto? The coffee production immediately, because of this subsidizing fertilizer from 7,000 to 2,500, the production of coffee has gone up to 55,000 metric tons. But let me now give you the matrix of economics. The production has gone up and the prices has gone double. Now, when you have more production in terms of coffee, and the price has gone up. It is even going against the economics. It's only the President Ruto who is doing magics in economics, where the supply is going up, and then the price has gone up. Usually, economically, when the supply go up,
the price go down.
The price and the demand remain constant,
but the prices
would go down. Yes. But now
there's more supply.
There's more supply, and the price is going up. It means these cartels, we were told, because since President Uhuru was telling us about the cartel, the only thing they did not crack is to crack now the cartel, so that these cartels who are eating the farmers' money from 80 shillings to 160, that is a double. In fact, during Jubilee time, the coffee was paid under $1. It's only now you have high production and high prices from below $1 to 160. Then you are told by President Ruto, even when we have increased the coffee from 80 to 160, an additional, in Uga, you not buy at 240, you go buy at 130. You are being given more money in terms of coffee. Then you are told for you to buy a packet of Unga, you buy at 130. So when you look now, let me now tell you where the problem Kenyans are suffering, where people are not very candid to speak about. The problem you are suffering is because of that public debt. That public debt is the one which is consuming all our revenue. That public debt was not invested in areas where we have return on investment, which is commensurate. Commensurate meaning 1 shilling per 1 shilling during Kibaki. Let us see 1 shilling of public debt and revenue. That's where the problem is. And you see, I also have seen some members of parliament actually talking about this public debt, trying to break down that now Kenya is borrowing 1.3 trillion per year. Then they break it, you divide by 12. You know, this simple arithmetic. But we go there.
Kwanza, I want us to quickly wrap up the finance bill.
Yes.
Because now there's a current conversation, and I know it's still a conversation that's ongoing. We're having the public participation going on.
Yes.
I think there was one in Kiambu, there was in Wajir.
Yes.
And there'll be another thing in Ukambani. We'll have another in Kajiado.
Yes.
So it's an ongoing conversation. Yes. But then again, typical of Kenyans, there is already a lot of speculations and there's already a lot of information flying around. Some true, some not. Have you read the finance bill?
Yeah, I've read it. I've read it.
I want to give you around 5 to 6 minutes just to brush through the contents of the finance bill and also the things that you've had online, because Kenyans converse are experts online. What has been talked about, like the issues of land, the issues of tax on phones, the issues of tax on internet, M-Pesa, transactions, all those things. I mean, you've heard about what they've talked about. But even before you get to that, let's have the foundation, because it almost feels like finance bill came with President William Ruto. Like when President Ruto was sworn in, he was also sworn in holding the finance bill. People feel, you would imagine that if someone arrived today in the country, they would think that finance bill is a new thing. Or maybe it is, because I'm not a finance expert. Is finance bill a new thing? Ni kitu mpya? Imeanza 2022 ama ilikuanga? Na kama ilikuanga, how has it been handled in those other years? What's the difference now and then?
Okay, thank you for that question. And I think now this is where we need to have very candid conversation. That's, finance bill, somebody will think that this government or President Ruto is the one which has reinvented the wheel. No, finance bill, we have not reinvented the wheel. You know, the problem, the only thing that President Ruto has done in his government is just to be transparent as the constitution's demand. What was happening before, do you know, it is only this time that we are seeing the cabinet secretary in charge of finance in Jivaji, in River Road, going to meet the people who are paying taxes. Before, we used to see somebody who is coming from the Harabia, from Treasury with a briefcase. And then when he finished reading, I don't know where he was going. I cannot even remember where those cars were going. But I could not, we are just watching like that. So we were not told what is happening. It's only now that President Ruto has said, let us be transparent. How these things have been done.
The only thing we used to hear was who was lost, who was gained in terms of budgeting. This sector has won, this sector has lost. Like there was no discourse. There was
no that engagement with the people who are paying the taxes and disclosing what we are financing. It's only that during this President Ruto, they have said this economy is for everybody. If we are paying taxes, we are opening this book to tell you this is what we are financing and this is where we want to get the money. So Kenyans decide. This is a democratic country. I have also had the Gen Z and the young people saying, we even have no problem with the finance bill. What we are asking is transparency. And that is what President Ruto has opened up. For me to ask you for this money, which I have seen the discussion online and in the mainstream media, I have realized that the things which are being done in secret are the ones now which are disturbing us. Because what is a finance bill? Let's start there. You have said this, we are in the season of finance bill. Yes. What is finance bill? Finance bill is a money bill, money. Finance is another word of money. The question is, why are you asking me money? Is to go and finance something called budget. So there are two things you cannot separate. Anytime you ask finance bill, you want to get taxes from foreign, from this other, and that has been done anyway, even before, to finance a budget. We have said that agency should interrogate budget. What is this 1.3 trillion? From 2014, what is this Eurobond? Which was borrowed for the country at a commercial rate when Kibaki was borrowing concessional rate from the international lenders, which is the World Bank, IMF. Instead of that, because of avoiding to be strictly forward, they went to buy money to get the Eurobond, 2 billion Eurobond from JP Morgan Chase in America, which I think is a story of another day to discuss about those details of that. Borrowing. But when we come to finance bill, the one now we are discussing, the question is, there is a lot of discussion. And you see, we are in the era of AI. I even saw another copy actually, which was saying that RADs will be changed from freehold to leasing.
Yes.
Then but for myself, I went through now the copy I had gotten, the original copy. I could not see something like that. During the AI era, these are the things that young people, Gen Z, and those who are coming after should brace themselves to go through. Because immediately you release any document today in the internet, you go to AI, you can, command it to change this, there's rad rate on this, there is this tax which has been, will be charged on this, and immediately you realize that one will come faster than the one which was original. That's why I like the way CS Treasury, Honorable CS John Buddy is doing. He's saying, let me come at Jivaji. Let me come where you are. Just remove a copy. That's why he has charged anybody to come with that copy, which is saying there is interest, there is a VAT, a tax, which will be charged on RAD. There is a clause in the finance bill, which is saying that the RAD now will not be freehold, it will be a lease. Nobody is coming. Because everybody has his own version. The problem is that
the finance bill that the agencies are discussing does not exist.
There's, even the one a person is discussing is different from the other one. So the problem is, and that's why I have said, when CS Treasury, Honorable Johnny Buddy, is going to the Mwananchi, he's coming. I have seen him in Jivaji, not now in Treasury. Somebody could have come with a copy. I've even had the opposition team, who are calling themselves United Opposition. I don't know, they're united. They're united to, why that should they, I want them now to be united for one time, to tell us, they are united to explain to Kenyans, why is it that at the Auditor General report is saying 2.67 trillion was spent on the current expenditure. They should be united on that. They should also be united to explain to Kenyans, why are we paying 300 billion, which was not traceable during the year 2018 to 2023. That's where we should see they are united, asking, let us see where this money went. Because we are paying that money at a cost, what we call the interest rate on the sovereign debt. Now, if that is not, they are not united to tell us where the money went. They are united to sabotage the economy, because for them, one, most of these people, they usually get very big salaries and they have saved. When you're getting 800,000 every month, for them, they don't care about these young people who are leaving colleges and universities. And we are releasing 1 million young people from college and university every year. Because if you go to the statistics from high school, that number is the same number that we are releasing every year. And that number, when you release it to the economy, and then you find this economy is demanding you to have a finance bill so that you pay some debt, which we do not attach any development expenditure, which is commensurate to what you are asking, that's where we're having the problem actually. Because even, and I will come to this for finance bill, so that Kenyans will be left asking themselves this question. You know, there are some Kenyans who hear 1 billion, and they think 1 billion can buy maybe 2 wheelbarrows. No. A billion is a lot of money. So when we talk about a trillion, we are talking of money that can change everything in this country. When we have 2.6 trillion and 300 billion at the Auditor General, you know why I'm quoting that is because I want to be factual. You know, you should quote what you are talking about. This money, like for example, you see this Thika Road. The whole of Thika Road, which is known from Mombasa, everybody understands Thika Road Superhighway. It only consumed or costed that 2 billion. Now, I want people to configure why we are suffering. That the 2 billion of Thika town to Nairobi, it costed that 2 billion. Now we are told we borrowed 7 trillion, for example, for the last regime. I want you to get 7 trillion. 7 trillion, you write all those zeros, then you divide by that 2 billion. So that to understand, just to have a figure, how many projects of that Thika Road should we see? Whether it is a dam, which has been constructed, AI centers, manufacturing center, EPZ, county aggregation centers of that magnitude. If you divide 7 trillion, divide by that 2 billion, we should be in this country seeing around 218 projects which are equivalent to superhighway, Thika superhighway. Now, if you go to this country, usually, if that 2 billion we can see Thika highway, how much big project could we be seeing anyway? Whether it is a dam, it is an AI center, it is what we call the EPZ, export processing zone, these CAIPs, the county aggregation, integration and aggregation centers, whereby the farmers will go and do, we increase the manufacturing. Or maybe we have at least an additional of what we call the electricity power production capacity increment. How comes we only, the entire period of Jubilee, we only have 2,300 megawatts of electricity, and we had 7 trillion. And you see, these 2,300, because we don't have a lot of time to discuss the global, the global economics. You know, when we have 2,300 in 10 years and we have borrowed 7 trillion, there's something wrong. This 7 trillion cannot be absorbed by an economy which has 2,300 megawatts. I can assure somebody, I give you 7 trillion Kenya savings with this kind of capacity. Because you need to manufacture things for you to consume this money if you are going to development. So this money, if you compare like this one with Singapore, where I think our president is very much vehementary, and he's telling us, you know, that the mentality of Singapore is only that some people do not want other children of the Mama Boga, the border, and the common minority to understand their Singapore and how those economies work. That's why they are diverting this issue of going to Singapore. You know, Singapore has only 6 million people. 6 million people, yes. 6 million people, they have a GDP of 85 trillion Kenya shillings. 85. When us here, we have 55 million people, we have a GDP of 17 trillion. This 17 trillion is because of this public debt of 13 trillion, which has been accumulated from 2014, mostly by this Jubilee government, and then our revenue has not grown. So if you look at our country with this 7 trillion Kenya shilling, which was borrowed by Jubilee, mostly this money has now stopped this country to grow, because the money we are collecting is not even enough. Because let me just give you one statistic. This country collect 2.2 trillion on what we call ordinary national tax revenue. Ordinary means is the money you are charged by KRA. Then we add something called A in A. That is appropriation in aid of 300 billion. 300 billion plus 2.2 is 2.5 trillion. A in A is the money you pay when you go to renew your license, you go to renew your passport, you go to pay for a title deed for a rat. Those are what we call A in A. Service fees. Service fees. 300 billion. You add what we collect from what we call ordinary national tax revenue of 2.2 trillion. That is 2.5. Let me help Kenyans now to understand. Even if we go, assuming we go to protest, maandamano, this is the point. Out of this 2.5 trillion, this is how a country is shaped at our constitution. And in our constitution, at our PFM Act, every time you collect the money in this country, that is the constitution that we passed, it is very explicit that you should first of all pay what you call sovereign debt.
Kabla ukule mandazi hata.
Before hata uende shule, before ununue dawa za hospitali, whether there is Ebola or there is Corona, before you do that, the constitution that we passed in 2010, that you pay sovereign debt. So this sovereign debt is this 7 trillion which Jubilee had just borrowed the last, mostly in the last regime, because they know they are leaving. So that they leave a problem, you deal with it when you are there. And this problem is going to take us very many, it's not going even, unless we change, and I have the solution for that, but I will give it in a later date, in a later discussion. There's a solution for that, and it will be very costly to some people who are in Jubilee. And if you're not willing to sacrifice that as Kenyans, to say that we don't want to hear anything about our community person from our ethnicity. Leave alone that. If a person was there, it is not your father, it's not your, even if it's your father or what, it is the one person who is being asked, 2 people, 3 people, or the group of people who are there. It's not about community or, these things they are trying to bring. Because for them to hide, they usually say our community is being attacked. It's not a community. There's nowhere. It is the people who are in the office. Our PFM Act is very explicit on that. So if you look at this 2.5, let me now tell you what our constitution says. First of all, pay public debt. Public debt in this country, we are paying to a tune of 1.3 trillion on sovereign public debt interest only. Interest means the principle of this 13 trillion is not touched. So you take 1.3, you pay to interest. Interest, the interest you are paying on your own.
Yes.
So if you pay 1.3, then number 2, you need to pay what we call
1.3. You've not touched the principle.
Principle is still there. You will have to pay next year.
Interest.
You will have to pay next year and the following years. Wow. Now, 2.5 minus 1.3, you are remaining with 1.2 trillion. Kenyans, the next thing you should do as per our constitution, before you do anything, you pay what we call public wage bill. You must pay the workers of the government. The public wage bill today, Google, Kenyans, you need to be Googling these things when I'm speaking. Yeah? Just go and Google, what is the public wage bill for this country? You will realize it is 1.2 trillion. So the money we had 2.5, get 1.3, pay public debt. 1.3, you add 1.2 of public debt of public wage bill. That is 2.5 trillion. Your money is gone completely. That is your country, Kenya. That is your country, Kenya. Let me even challenge you now, Kenyans. Now that this country, maybe those who are challenging President Ruto, I want you, if you are president, you have the KRA is not President who correct. And if the money was collected more during Jubilee, now it has reduced. Somebody will ask, where is this money going? And you are collecting. We were not even collecting this 2.5. We were collecting 1.9 trillion. So it means you cannot, there's nowhere you can attach that. Why is it that we are not collecting much that we are collecting? During Jubilee, we are collecting even less. I don't know where this money was going.
Okay.
But maybe those are the issues we usually hear about corruption and other things.
Let me ask you, because now there's one curious question then that comes in.
Yes.
That you've given us a breakdown of debt that maybe most of the Kenyans are not private, and you realize that Kenyans actually don't go into debt when it comes to information.
Yes.
Especially on issues of repayment of debts.
Yes.
You mentioned that the 1.3 trillion that we pay is interest only.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So when are we going to pay the principal? And with what money?
No, I actually feel, and that's why I like, young people, Gen Zs. For them, I have even, I've been interacting with them. What they are saying, we do not even have a lot of this. We don't want anybody to come and give us these political issues. That's why they were saying, there's a time that these Gen Zs were saying they are tribalists, they are leaders, they are all this manner of things. And that is a very good thing. Because what they are telling you is that don't come with the narrative you are telling our grandfather, our fathers, and our millennials. Even millennials, they are the victims. They also bought this narrative. They were not asking, this 70, why are you borrowing all this money? What are you doing? Now, if you go to this, and yes, I told you in our Public Finance Management Act in our Constitution, we need to go back there and ask, why did you use this money? If the Constitution have said if you did not use our money in the right way, we not to trace 300 billion, which you are paying in the interest, then you should be surcharged as a person. So if now we are spending 1.3 on public debt interest rate, 1.2 on public wage bill, that is 2.5. Now let me ask you, Kenyans, if you become a president and the KRA has given you that money and you have spent on that interest at 1.2 for public debt, let me now surprise Kenyans. In this constitution in 2010, which the constitution that we promulgated in 2010, you said you want to have 47 counties. 47 counties, they need what we call county revenue allocation. County now, from there, let me now tell you where the problem is coming. We need now to send the money to counties, 425 billion, which we do not have here. And that is where now our problem is coming. Where is this 1.3? Why are we paying this money 1.3? Because from there now the problem of Kenya starts when we have paid public debt, interest 1.3, not principal, interest. Then 1.2 on public wage bill. Now we have what we call county revenue allocation of 425 billion. Plus, now in this 1.3 is not capitation. It's not money which go to school, which they are saying we need free primary education. Imagine in our constitution, this finance bill, we need 725. For last year, it was 725 billion. The president, through this year, this financial bill 2026, 2027, he has increased to 765 billion. Now, there is 425 billion. We do not have money because the money we have paid to this interest rate, which we are saying we do not see the commensurate revenue on this money. And also we would like to start from Mombasa, by the way. Let us come counting all this project. Gen Z, even though Gen Z were in Mombasa, in Turkana, you can even have, through TikTok, just go and measure the road which is there. See a dam. Let us combine this and we compute whether this 7 trillion is in this country. Let me tell you, if this project were in this country, 7 trillion, this economy could be very far. In fact, Singapore could be coming to benchmark here. But now, let me add
Singapore
some.
be going to Kenya.
They could, Singapore, they should be saying we are going to Kenya, not the other way around. But let me finish something here. Yes. If we finish our money in public debt interest and public wage bill, it means now what about now when you say that Ndung'u Mirii, you are telling us we are paying that. So where do we get the money for school capitation? Yes. 725, 65. Then county government has been sent money for 25. That is 7 plus 725 billion, 765 billion. That is around 1.1 trillion. Now we have not touched what we call other government recurrent expenditure. For example, fueling the government cars and the operations, paying the pay bill, the electricity bill to Kenya Power. All those ones come around 300 billion for minimum 300 billion. From there, you need to touch something we call security. National security is not in this. You know, when you pay public debt and you pay salaries and you send the money to county government 425 and you pay money allocation to schools 725, you have not touched national security. About 500 billion. Now, let me ask you, if this is the deficit that we have, that is where now Kenyans, I want them to know why we are having this problem of this budget deficit is because, one, we have this now budget that we need to finance after our money has been consumed by public interest rate and public wage bill. We need to finance county government, 47 of them. We have to finance our education, 765, which are in the constitution. I want Kenyans now to tell me, where do you want this? Where should this money come from? And that is now what is, we go now to the finance bill. The finance bill is coming to say, oh, look here. We have found the Jubilee government has left us for us to pay 1.3 trillion. And also we need to pay salaries, which were also paid during the Jubilee, 1.2. So we don't have money. Kenyans, this is the kind of... So should Kenyans now ask the big question, where are we paying 1.3? Now we can see where money is going for devolution for counties, 425. Very good. Now we have 47 county. No governor has complained. He has not gotten his share. But we have a problem to account where this 1.3 trillion is going. We have been asking that question. Who should answer that question? I have told you earlier, go to Auditor General report. He will tell you
where the money is going.
The money, 2.67 trillion plus 300 billion, around 3 trillion was not spent as per our constitution. And if you do what we call, if you go to financial matters, there's something we call the future value of money and the future value of annuity. If you go and get this 3 trillion and you apply the formula you apply when you are computing what we call the future value of annuity, the future value of annuity is the cost that we are going to pay for this money we are paying every year that we do not spend well. 3 trillion, this is 3 trillion. The formula is, we say it is equal to the present value or the money that now you are saying 3 trillion, or PV, you close the brackets, 1 plus R over M, you close that bracket, you raise that to the power of MT, minus 1, you divide that by R over M, you close the bracket after A, Then you could open another bracket, you multiply by 1 plus R over M, close that bracket. If you apply that, the professionals can understand what I'm saying. This 3 trillion, if you apply that, you realize that even the money we are losing is not only this 3 trillion, because this 3 trillion, we are paying interest on them. And we not use that money in development expenditure. It means all the money that we were getting, we have gone past above what we are collecting before we got this money. So this finance bill has a lot of misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, lies. I have gone through that finance bill. And even if you look at that finance bill, there's this, issue of the RAD taxes, which when you listen to our CS, Johnny Buddy, he has said he has not seen that finance bill. Maybe there are so many finance bills. Maybe it's because we are in a democratic country. Every person can create your finance bill and then you discuss it. Because he has said he has not seen that that provision in that finance bill. There is this tax on mobile phones, 25% excise duty. There's a problem. Arithmetically speaking, if you go to our finance bill, our taxes today, the fund that you have, you usually pay 16%. You also pay another 10%. You also pay another, what we call the other levies which are there. If you accumulate all the levies, and I know Kenyans can even go and you read the taxes which are, which are attached on the phone. They come around over 50% to 55% of the phone that you own today, or you had bought. You paid, the money you paid, 50 to 55% was taxes. What the government
has said. It's only that you don't know.
It's only that you don't. What the problem is saying, you are not told. Yeah. You are not told that this phone you have bought at 50,000, 30,000, 10,000, out of it, 50 to 55%, it was taxed. Now you are told, the government has realized, because of these young people want to use phones, and they want to access them. President has said, and this government, this money, instead of even all this money, let us reduce it. We call it just one tax. Instead of having VAT, we have the railway development levy. We have all these other levies which are there, custom duty. Instead of paying this 55%, let us pay 25, all of them, and we give them one name instead of so many. Call it excise duty.
You just get taxed at one gate.
Just that. Because even if you have to go back to the old, you pay. In fact, the phone will be more expensive. So the phone now has come to 25. Out of all these taxes, instead of paying 55, pay 25. And when do you pay? Now, there's another question. I don't know who brought this narrative. I said that it is paid when you are doing activation. Whether you are paying when you are activating or you pay when you are buying, the tax you have paid anyway. And the question is, the point here is that the government has said, instead of asking you to pay, the people who are importing this mobile phone, they were paying from Port of Mombasa, they can't pay all the way. By the time the phone is at the shelf of the mobile phone sellers, already the money, the tax for the taxes which are charged on the phone, already you have paid. Now they have said, instead of paying early, and you have not sold.
We can help them.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to, because now, information is very central.
Thank you.
I just went to ChatGPT.
Yes.
And ask how many taxes are paid on phones in Kenya.
Thank
you.
Yes.
And this is what it says. Currently, mobile phones in Kenya attract 5 distinct taxes and levies during importation and through the supply chain before they reach the consumer.
Thank
okay?
you. Yes.
Once again,
yes.
Currently mobile phones in Kenya attract 5 distinct taxes and levies before importation and through the supply chain before they reach the consumer. The breakdown of these charges creates a cumulative tax burden of approximately 55.5%.
I had said that.
On the value of the device. And the source is actually from Citizen Digital. There's a news article that was done by Citizen Digital.
Yes.
So we break down the taxes.
Yes.
Import duty, which is in bracket customs duty, is at 25%.
25%.
Value added tax, which is VAT, is at 16%.
16%.
Excess duty, which is 10%.
10%.
Import declaration fee, IDF, at 2.5%.
2.5%.
Railway development levy, RDL, at 2%.
2%.
Yes.
Kenyans, that is the money.
So it goes further.
Yes.
It goes further to tell us about the proposal that are being given by the finance bill. And it says,
yes,
upcoming structural changes, finance bill 2026. The National Treasury has proposed a major overhaul to how these devices are taxed. Instead of collecting the 5 separate taxes at the point of entry, which ties up the capital for vendors stocking devices, the government intends to replace the fragmented framework with a single 25% excise duty. Under this proposed structure, the tax would only be charged when the phone is sold and activated using its international mobile IMEI equipment identity, that's IMEI number. So I'm baffled because I actually didn't think about doing this. But now that you mentioned, I've just used my phone and I've asked.
We are in the information era. Just Google. Go to ChatGPT, go to Google.
So I wonder why this not
this is what we call misinformation, disinformation, and because we are in a democracy. I told you we are in a we run under what we call the democratic constitutional democracy. So this constitutional democracy, it tells you if somebody come here and tell us now we are not going every phone you own, he come with another version of his own. That is his own version. But what you need to do is to do now what you have done. Actually, let every Kenyan now try to use the internet. Go and Google what you are saying. Imagine the phone you have now, you paid 25%, you have said VAT, you paid 25%, VAT 16%, 10%, 2.5%, 2%, total 55%. Currently, you have told you not to pay 55%. The government has said for you to afford that phone, we will corrupt all these 55% to one. Just pay 25%. And you have your phone. In fact, that is bringing competition. People who will be bringing phone here, because there is not much this tax, the phone will be so, the importance will have a lot of competition. And that means the mobile phone actually with these taxes, it will come down.
It will be cheaper.
It will be cheaper. It's the same misinformation I have seen with this issue of fuel actually. The fuel tax, I don't know why the fuel is expensive in Kenya than Uganda. I don't know. I have even seen a proposal by the MP from Gerald.
As you go to Ndindi, because the whole agenda, the whole idea of having a show this morning was to, first of all, debunk the lies that move around. The finance bill, and to just ensure that we have a debate of facts to ensure that we can flow the facts, because in this era of information, people say anything. I can wake up in the morning and say, Ndung'u is a madman. And until you come out and you prove that you're mentally okay, my word will take in for it. So you have a member of parliament, Ndindi-Nomics, who is an economist like you. Okay? And I'm sure you've been listening, because he's been the one who has been leading the conversations on the economy in this country. He even has a proposal in parliament to lower the prices of fuel. Among many other things that he has spoken about in this press conference. I don't know, have you been listening?
I followed.
So maybe you can take us through the issues that he's been raising about the country, on the state of the economy, and also the proposals that he has in mind and the questions that he has been raising, including the issues on why fuel is more expensive in Kenya than other countries in the region. So maybe you can debunk for us, you can take us through the Ndindi-Nomics that you've been able to be exposed to by him.
So, thank you very much. In this country, what I've come to realize now, and why I like these young people is because the Gen Zs and the youths, to them, they really don't want you to speak much. I don't even speak on their behalf if you are hypocritic. This is a question. I've even seen that proposal. Maybe we can even start with that one for VAT of fuel and the fuel prices. Even the member of parliament, Ndindi-Nomics, he's out of order. Because the MP, Ndindi-Nomics, the member of Kiharu constituency, when this UDA government came to office in 2022, the VAT for fuel was 80%. Ndindi-Nomics did not become just an ordinary MP. He was given a mandate. He said he has a degree in economics, and so he can fix some of the problems which are here. Now, when Ndindi-Nomics was chairman of budget in the National Assembly, with his budget, which he was the one who was defending, including the finance bill, which the Gen Zs had stopped and they had said they don't want. Ndindi-Nomics was in that parliament that day. When the youths were outside, Ndindi-Nomics was inside. And he was supporting the finance bill. He was not on the side of the people, of the Gen Z who are outside. So the point is, if in 2024, the finance bill, because you are chairman of budget, maybe there are so many benefits. We would like to know the benefit these people get. Maybe sometimes when they are the chairman, maybe there are some sitting allowance or what are these they get. Because the immediately Ndindi-Nomics, MP of Kiharu, was removed. Is the time he has realized the fuel should come from from wherever 80% it is, but I will take you through to zero rated and then to exempt. Before we come, I would like maybe Ndindi-Nomics to answer me this. Before we come to zero rated, MP Ndindi-Nomics found VAT at 80%. Instead of helping the government with his knowledge in economics, the VAT, he brought a budget which had a deficit. I don't know how he wanted that deficit to be paid, because government only get money from taxes or borrowing. What Ndindi-Nomics should tell us next when he appear in the public media? He should tell us the budget which he had, the first budget he presented in parliament. It had a deficit. What method or which mode, which means did he want Kenyans to fix that gap of deficit? Is it through public debt or through addition of taxes? Because those are the only two options that we have. And that is why I find it very awkward when I see MP Ndindi-Nomics say that we need to reduce VAT from 80% now to zero rated, to zero. Let me ask you, Ndindi-Nomics, when was it easier? When you became the chairman of budget, the VAT was 8. You with your wisdom and with your knowledge in economics, the VAT moved to 16%. I heard him the other day saying that now the things have changed, so we need to move to zero. I would like him to explain what has changed. The only thing that has changed in Kenya is that Ndindi-Nomics has been removed from chairman of budget. Because what is this that he is telling us has changed? Because does it mean Ndindi-Nomics can come and qualify to tell us that he took a public participation and Kenyans say, let us move VAT of fuel from 8 to 16? It's because maybe Ndindi-Nomics was hiding something, these things I told you about the public debt, which was the pressure. He does not want to speak about them. I don't know, it's because maybe the leadership which was there before. He wants to hide whatever, instead of telling us the truth. Now, where we are, he added from 8%, he supported to add this to 16%. In fact, when he was removed as the chairman of budget, the government, through the current now chairman of budget, Samuel Atadi, member of parliament, they moved this down, reduced this to 80%, back to where it was. Ndindi-Nomics, when he was chairman of budget, and he's the one who has this economics degree, which he tells us that he has the 3 degrees. He moved it to 16%. Which economics was he using? Was it making the burden of Kenyans easier when he was chairman from 80% to 16%? Now, when he was removed from the chairman of budget, the VAT came to 8%. Now, instead of even appreciating, he is saying, he has given a very simple proposal. That's a primary school proposal. Because when you say you just want to remove from 232 for petrol and 206 or 210 for petrol, he's just saying remove this 5 shilling from here, then remove from here. Then, even if you give a primary school kids this money, and you tell him, I want you to move this 230, I have this VAT, cost this cost this, can you make it 180? Everybody will come remove. In fact, I even tested a very young person. And even if you give them that exercise, I want this to move from 230 to an 80. You don't need a degree to move that. Even a kid will tell you, don't even move. You know, the is complicating. Get from zero rated to exempt. I even had him confusing our constitution. It is not. This proposal cannot work in this country. The proposal of removing the VAT from 80% to zero rated, and then in the same proposal, he's saying to move to a tax exempt. Those two things, Ndindi-Nomics is a member of parliament. He should go to our constitution. It is not possible to move that fuel from zero rated and then you have exempt at the same time. I don't know which economics is that. Because to make it exempt, what you are saying that the input VAT, which is a standardized VAT, if you move it to exempt, you are telling the people who are supplying the fuel not to claim the VAT, the input VAT from the export, because fuel under our constitution, through our tax administration system, fuel importation has been categorized as a standardized good. standardized VAT good. A standardized VAT good are those goods which are charged as standard VAT. Our standard VAT in our Kenya is 16%, has been 16%, but it can be amended by Act of Parliament depending on which good you want to talk about. So fuel today is a standardized VAT good. It was at 16, it was moved to 80%. If you say we want to make it exempt, in fact, we will make this fuel to be more expensive because the people who are supplying this fuel will not claim back the standard VAT input from the import. And the should understand how you should start that. That should go all the way from changing our tax system and our tax laws so that you move our fuel from how it has been anchored. If you exempt it, what you are saying, these people should not go to claim the input VAT standard. That means they have to put that VAT to the consumer. So he has not changed anything. Number two, you cannot have a zero-rated fuel at the way our structures of VAT at the fuel is zero-rated, and then you make it exempt. It's like telling somebody to be a man and a woman at the same time. Now, I don't understand, and I would like to have a sitting with the MP Ndung'u to understand. I would like him to read the Constitution, then he compute. I tell him, when you are computing, does Constitution allow you to compute what you are computing? It doesn't allow. So, but going back to where Ndung'u found this country, what was it easier? When the fuel was 80%, instead of giving us one statement that things have changed, tell us what are those things which have changed. Now, because things have changed, we need to move from 8 to 0-rated. Tell us what is that was too difficult to move it from 8 to 0 when you have had a budget. Because you knew the budget you are presenting needed some money to finance. Part of that budget was this money which was borrowed by Jubilee. Maybe you are hiding this Jubilee issue. I don't know. Because the only thing, when you tell people that these things have changed, I would like to know, break down, what is this has changed that you're saying should come from 8, which has been reduced, to 0-rated. The only thing which has changed is that Ndung'u has been removed from the chairman of budget. Any other thing, I don't know. Can you explain to Kenyans, what is this as you are saying? We need now to move from 80%. In fact, it has been moved from 16 to 8. Now you are saying 0. When was it easier? Is it when you found it at 8 to bring it to 0? And then you tell us, how are you going to finance the budget that you had with a deficit? You yourself, you knew the budget you had, you need to add to increase taxes. Did you had a public participation? Did you ask Kenyans? Do you have a clips that the Kenyans told Ndung'u increase fuel from 80% because your budget has a deficit to 16%, and Kenyans were happy? Can you see us that clip? That Kenyans were very happy, increase the fuel from 8 to 16 because this budget which the chairman is presenting is a good thing. Don't tell us things have changed. When was it easier? Is it to move it from 8 to 0? Or first of all, you took it from 8 to 16, then the government has reduced it to 8, then you're saying to come. You could have done it, and then you tell us, how are you going to finance that budget which had a deficit? But that is a conversation of another day. Now, this issue of misinforming Kenyans. Now that you are not chairman of budget, now you are saying that I know how much is being borrowed. Even if you go to the public debt, which the economics of the Ndindi-Nomics, that the public is borrowing, I think, 1.3 trillion. So it's just dividing. The primary school mathematics, that's not economics. When you divide the 1.3 trillion, you divide it by 12 months. Surely, that's not, we cannot reduce a degree to that level. Because that division, then you say we are borrowing this money per day. In fact, if this is, I'm in a media where everybody can access. What did Ndung'u should be telling us? Kenyans, I am very sorry. When I became the chairman of budget, I found the public debt at 8.9 trillion. I was entrusted that I can use this economics I have so that this public debt can reduce. But because you found a problem which you started hiding, maybe you're hiding because of the people who are in power then. Politics are very funny. Somebody can go and he can be, compromised. Don't make it complicated. Also, add some taxes. That's why the taxes moved from 80% to 16. Instead of telling people where we are now, why do we add it to 16? Can you explain to people how many Kenyans participated and said, we are happy, they clapped and they said, we are clapping, add it from 8. Now don't complain now when it is being removed from 16 where you left it to 8. Your budget went there. But the Ndung'u should start in every statement like that, I am very sorry, Kenyans. Because when I came, I found a public debt of 80.9. By the time he left last year, not long time ago, last year on March, because this is the only last budget which Ndung'u has not participated. All the other budget, 2022-2023 financial year budget, 2023-2024 financial year budget, 2024-2025, which agencies were out to protest. Because they were protesting, the economics of Ndung'u is not working. That is what Ndung'u should understand. That Gen Z said, all this time we have given you, Ndung'u, you're not helping us to solve the problem we had. Maybe you're hiding something. And that is why I'm asking Ndung'u to come and tell us, during your time, is the time this money you calculate 1.3 trillion, is the money which you increased in your deficit in the budget that you had. Actually, you should be the one explaining to people, why did you borrow this money that you are explaining to us? You are the chairman of budget. The deficit which was been increased is because of and you go to YouTube and you see Ndung'u defending all this budget and tabling the budget. Mr. Speaker, and even sometimes in 2024, he was telling the members of parliament, Mr. Speaker, if these members of parliament does not approve this finance bill of 2024, you will go and explain to your constituency why you do not get 50 million or whichever amount to your constituency. So according to Ndung'u, I don't know what this has changed because he's not there as a chairman, but these are the things we are saying. We need now to be debunking some of this information and misinformation, disinformation, and somebody just coming to the people. It's like somebody come, he kill your children, then he will not appear in the first day of mourning. He will wait for 3 days because people are asking, who killed their children? Because you know your name is somewhere around there, you do not appear. But you only start appearing when they are almost coming to the funeral. And when you come, you are trying to show how they will buy a coffin and how they will do the funeral. And even you sometimes even contribute. Knowing very well, you know the cost. Because the cost of this public debt, Ndung'u is squarely at the center. You are the chairman of budget. Explain to Kenyans why. Explain to Kenyans. Next time, go and break down to Kenyans. This money that released from 8.9 trillion, because you are defending, explain to Kenyans the project you had attached. And why you closed your mouth if your will was not heard? Why didn't you come to the media and say, I want to resign from this chairman of budget because the money which is here, which is being the projects which are being financed, I have not seen them in the budget. You kept quiet because you knew this problem came from the Jubilee administration and you did not want to speak this. Now, Kenyans, the best thing you can solve this problem. Go back, compare two things. Finance bill and budget. Look at this, where did this money go? Let us put these people to account. Let's hold them to account.
Finance bill and
finance bill side to side. That will be the best thing, Gen Z, you can do in your life. Otherwise, this finance bill, assume now, I have told you that we use all our money, 1.3 to the public debt. Go to that. For the first time, Gen Z, ask, there's something Ndung'u is asking. Why is it too difficult? Yes, finance bill is here. Think about it. But ask, finance bill is coming to finance a budget. Now go to the budget, the item of the budget. And you know, this is you. And then you ask, who should answer this question of the budget? Is the Auditor General report. I have told you, I have referred to a constitutional office. Go to Auditor General report. You see what they have told you, whether this money, they can tell you this money squarely, it was spent in your economy. It was not spent because the general report has given you the figures, even the numbers. So that now we ask, when somebody come, I even heard the other day, I think the former president, he said that hii mambo ya inaendelea hapa, the Kenyans, you know, they are pricing, asking about the finance bill. That the former president actually said this issue is simple. Address it. And I would like to disagree. This thing is not simple. It's not that simple. It can, when you say it's simple, it's not that simple. You know, when you say it's simple, it can only be simple if you explain to us between year 2018 and 2023, the Auditor General report has said that he asked for receipts, he asked for the documents where 300 billion was spent. That is why it is not simple. Because it is until you go back to Auditor General and you take the receipt that you say, this money constructed this AI center, it constructed this electricity power production plant. It is until that it will be simple. Otherwise, if the Jubilee government spent 2.67 trillion on the current expenditure, which we are not getting returns now, because that was the end of it, and then you spent 300 billion, which is untraceable. How does it become simple, Your Excellency? I would like to understand that. How is it simple? When you are paying this public, 3 trillion, if you go with our calculation, the sovereign debt then, they were taking at 18%. Even if you take 13%, what is 13%? 13% times 3 trillion, which was spent, one, on the current expenditure, which we are not getting any return. When you fuel a car, when you go to a meeting in Mombasa, that money, you cannot go there and get any return. So this 3 trillion, if you get the percentage we are paying, I'm talking about the public debt that was borrowing. And I have not touched 2014 to 2018, where we have Eurobond, which was borrowed under commercial rate. For the first time, for Kibaki, the whole of Kibaki did not borrow. A commercial loan is where you are borrowing at a very high interest rate, 16%, when the concessional rate loans were at 5%, 6%. But now if we go to this, 13% of 3 trillion, which I'm saying from between 2018 to 2023, if you calculate it, will be 390 billion. This is around 400 billion. This 400 billion, we are told to pay, and the money was spent on the current expenditure. Even if you wait for 1,000 years, this cannot work. This is not simple. You cannot tell people it is simple. It is not. What we want now is the accountability of how our public finance has been managed since 1963. In fact, we have a lot of information. We are going to start there. It's only that we don't have a lot of time. Next time, we will now start going every administration with its own merit and demerit. Every administration. But this problem of saying things are not simple, because when you are doing this, I would like to know, I heard even the former president said this, that people are saying, because he is earning 20,000, I think 60% is going to pay rent, house rent. Then the other 6% is going where? And he said, they are saying this money is not enough for them. Let me ask, how much were they paid during Jubilee? That's the question. How much were they paid, and how much were... You know the problem of this 20,000? It is because now you left a public debt, which you yourself, you do not find a public debt that you are paying. So you have no excuse. The excuse for this government, why they are borrowing this money, I wanted now to say this. I told you that we are not left with any money that we can run our country. Because of this issue of paying this public debt, which did not give a commensurate revenue in our country, the money for counties, the money for allocation for schools, 760 billion, the money for national security, the money for running the minimum basic national government recurrent expenditure is over 1.6 trillion. And that one has nothing to do with President Ruto, because county government came before President Ruto became a president. Unless you tell President Ruto, hey, now we are saying, bring a referendum. Because if our money is getting out here, now let us remove county government, because you don't have money. So, and then we can now discuss why. And that is answering the question, why the money President Ruto is borrowing in his administration. This is how you can connect it. This money is going to the county demanded fund by the constitution. Number two, the capitation. Or when did Ndung'u come and tell us the country is borrowing? Next time. And I would like to meet with him. I want him to tell me, we are collecting 2.5, use which degree, maybe you can use the first degree, second degree, or that degree in economics. The one will tell me, the country is getting how much in revenue? 2.5 trillion. That is the financial year 2024, 2025. This year, I don't know whether we will get there, because there's a lot of challenges which are there, which are still emanating from this public debt which were borrowed by the Jubilee government. But now, Ndung'u will tell me, then even when you are there, how much was KRA collecting? 2.2 trillion. Then appropriation in aid, 300 billion. So that is 2.5. Now, Ndung'u, using your economics knowledge, first degree, second degree, you have even that degree. I even saw you in Northern School of Economics. Combining all those, and even I heard you are now doing something, or you are engaging something in Harvard. Now, combining all those, you have 2.5, then you know public debt. Are you aware of the public debt which was borrowed? Yes. How much should be paid? 1.3. When you are chairman of budget, what is the public wage bill? 1.2. When you add the two, using whichever degree you want to use, that is 2.5. The money is out. Now we have a budget here also. After demanding that, they need county government, 420 billion. We have the education, 765 to the currently because of the CBC and all those expenses. That is 700 plus 400, that's 1.1 to 1.2. We have national security, about 500 billion. That is about 1.7 trillion. Then you add what we call the minimum operation, like paying the bill for electricity, for government offices, buying papers to print you ID, to print you passport. We need that money. So if you add that money, can you explain to Kenyans, when you keep on, giving lectures about this government, where you were by last year, when you are removed, how do you expect Kenya now to get the money for all those I have asked you? That's the conversation I would like to have. Because if you tell me something that we will hear, maybe a magic can happen, then I will appreciate that. But coming to disinform people, misinform people, that you only calculate 1.3 divided by 12 years, divided by 1 hour, that's not economics of somebody with masters and all this. We cannot reduce academics like that. In fact, I would challenge Ndung'u, we come and do some of these calculations. I even see some of these things he was asking. And I'm asking this with all due respect because, he has been holding a public office in terms of chairman of budget and appropriation committee, not of Kiharu constituency, but of National Assembly. So why I'm speaking about this is at his capacity as chairman of budget and appropriation committee of National Assembly, not as the what do you call them, as the patron of CDF of Kiharu. I'm not even touching that. I'm not interested with the 200 million that go to Kiharu. I'm interested with this chairman of national or chairman of budget and appropriation committee of National Assembly, because that was touching in my constituency, in Keguma constituency, which is in Muranga. So I'm asking about this national, not the issue. That's why I'm not touching about Kiharu. This is not, managing a national economy, both micro and macro, is not like dealing with the Cabros and Tyros economy. It's a different phenomenon altogether. When you are dealing with this kind of matter, when we have all this pressure, international pressure, foreign exchange, we have the national reserve, we have the population growing, the revenue, there's public debt which you are not accounted. We are trying to figure out using the expertise like John Badi. We have these wars in Ukraine and not Ukraine. These wars in Iran and Israel. When we have all this, I want to separate the Tyros and Cabros economy in the Kiharu constituency and the economy of a national economy phenomenon. Those are two different things. So don't reduce this national economics, micro and macro, to Tyros and Cabros economy. No. So, and there's a challenge I also would like to put maybe
Cabros is also important.
They're important as far as that constituency is concerned. Okay. That is an affair of the resident of Kiharu. Whether you have done good or not, it is them who will tell you. That is why you do not get 100% vote. There are people who are not also contented in that. Not everybody who you look at Tyros and saying that the children will get, I think they are eating chapati on Friday. With all those degree, with all due respect, don't be mentioning some of these things. It's mocking the people of that a chapati is something important to mention, because with all this respect they have given you, mention bigger things. Start the AI center there. Start the things which look Radhan School of Economics. Now I have even heard now they have introduced. I think they will be taking a soda. I think which day of which year of which month. When you reduce now 21st century with this stomach, food, I don't have a problem. Just decide what you decide. But again, academically is not well. But let me even ask you this. There's
Back
a question.
To the national affairs.
National affairs. I think there's a question which was asked.
Even before you go to that question. But anyway, let me give you first to go to that question. Because there's something I wanted us to tie in a continuation of the conversation that we're having.
Yes.
Around the budgets.
Yes.
In the interest of the public.
Yes.
Now, let's reduce this to a household.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Sema ni nyumba, ni kwako.
Yes.
Umepiga bajeti yako, kwanza umeona mshahara yako,
yes.
Umeokota mshahara ya mama, umeokota mshahara yako.
Yes.
Ile pesa ya kahawa ulipata kidogo na dividends ya chai labda. Kama unalima mahindi umesanya pesa ya maziwa.
Yes.
Umesanya imefika Piga hesabu inafika 200,000.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Ndio 200,000. Mshahara ya mama umechukua.
Yes.
Ndio? Hii pesa yote ya shamba umechukua.
Yes.
So how you go to your expenses? School fees, maybe inakuja 70.
Yes.
Inakuja chakula, maybe inakuja 30.
Yes.
Unakuja miscellaneous, fare nini, logistics, maybe inakuja ingine.
Yes.
And like you're saying, you end up exhausting your income. Angalia deni uko na fuliza.
Yes.
Uko na loan,
yes.
Uko umechukua ya bank.
Yes.
Uko na hii mambo yote.
Yes.
Uko na deni ya dhara.
Yes.
Yenye uko umechukua kwa jirani ya kulisha ng'ombe.
Yes.
Uko na deni ya mbegu labda na mbolea.
Yes.
So unakutanisha hapa unapata hata kabla hujaanza.
Yes.
Kulipa hata hii fees.
Yes.
Tayari hiyo pesa yako imeisha na deni.
Yes.
Ambayo uko nayo.
Yes.
Na miscellaneous ya kurani nyumbani. So bado uko na fees hujalipa.
Yes.
Bado uko na transport hujaweka budget
yes.
yake. Bado ng'ombe si bado itabidi endelee kukula.
Yes.
Yes, ndio.
Yes.
Shamba si lazima urudi ulime.
Yes.
Mbolea lazima utapata.
Yes.
Now we are looking at this situation in Kenya as an household. Now
yes.
you have collected, you say 2.5 trillion.
Yes.
You have 1.3 trillion yes. going to debt repayment.
Yes.
And you have the normal expenditure.
Public wage bill.
Public wage bill that you cannot run away from.
Yes.
You have to pay salaries. Sasa uko na wafanyikazi nyumbani, uko na shamba boy, labda
pension, you need to pay pension for the
pension, kuna mambo yote.
Yes.
So this is Kenya. And like the president is the father of the household.
Yes.
He has this 2.5 and now he has obligations of probably 2.6. So you are shooting even by 100B.
Yes.
So what are the options available?
Now, you have now come to where I wanted now. And I will just, if you allow me, that is echoed, then I come to that. Because you have put a very good, important thing. Now, where do we go? And why didn't, MP Ndung'u give us this economics for how to get out of this? Because it is the same thing you are saying. When the budget was that, why did you increase the budget and you have already exhausted? But I will come to that because I know that is now where the issue is. There is this issue which has been misinformation about this, and I will tie now with what you have asked. I also saw that there is this, and let me even combine it with that, because actually, let me combine it because it is what I wanted to discuss about. There is this issue now where President Ruto has come and said, when I look at how this country is moving, I have noted that we need now to rethink about how we are going to refinance our project. And for you now to do that, you need to get out of box now, which you see after Ndung'u has moved out of chairman of budget. The president have realized there are so many other options which he was not advised on. And that is when now the president has said we need now to have alternative financing models. And now that's why the president has gone to what we call National Infrastructure Fund. Instead of going to borrowing now, the president has said, let us have other alternatives. Number one, we need to have this to support this National Infrastructure Fund. How does the National Infrastructure Fund help to deal with that basic budget, either household or the Kenyan problem? The National Infrastructure Fund is coming to say, wait a minute, it's you who is closing your eyes. There are so many other options there. What happened? You only need to have a national policy and regulation and act which can attract what we call the private equity, private money. Instead of going to borrow, what Ndung'u could have advised the president, let us not go to this. In fact, what we need to do, instead of having a deficit budget for doing roads and all these other things, let us introduce other alternative capital raising measures. Like one, we have the National Infrastructure Fund, which President Ruto has brought in. The National Infrastructure Fund will hear now the problem you have asked. Because here what we are saying, National Infrastructure Fund is we can call it a vehicle. They are called the SPV, Special Purpose Vehicle. Special Purpose Vehicle is a vehicle whereby you come and first of all you earn calories so that you tell the private people, private investors, whether locally or internationally. Now, look here. We have passed a law here called the National Infrastructure Fund Act 2025-2026. And it is say it has safeguarded your interest. In case you want to come and invest in Kenya, what do we want you to do? Let us not borrow money. Kenyans, President Ruto has said, let us not borrow money which you will be told to pay taxes for the interest which we are complaining. Any person in the whole world, because today we are living in a global, in a village, in a global village. If you are a person who is interested to invest in, for example, energy, you can come. The National Infrastructure Fund is saying that we are going to raise money from one privatization. When you have a business, sometimes we go to household. The government realized that we have some already mature investment project institution in this country, which in most cases, when you do some financial calculation using what we call the capital budgeting advance, financial advance management, financial advance management, there's something that we call what we call NPV, the net present value. Then you can use another model called the IRR, internal rate of return. That's where you look at what is the return we are getting from this investment in Safaricom. If you are getting 6 billion every year, how many years are we going to take for us to get 206 billion, which we want to get from Safaricom, as we have the Safaricom divestiture? We are going to take 28 years. From today, 28 years, getting 6 billion. We are going to get how many years for us to get 206 billion, which we are getting from Safaricom divestiture? This way now, I also hear, MP Ndung'u now misleading Kenyans. Because even when you look at how we do calculation and we do the valuation of a company, maybe for Safaricom, and do the valuation of a company or the valuation of shares, the stock of a company. There are some internationally known models, internationally known formulas and models which we use. For example, if we want to calculate what we call the shares of a company, we say PO is equals to, I didn't know this, unless you need to go back to the notes, and he realized PO is equals to D1 over KE minus G. That is, if you go to London School of Economics, the professor there of economics will tell you, that is what Ndung'u Mirii is telling you. For you to calculate the share of a company or equity, you need to know that a share should cost at the Nairobi Security Exchange. You use a formula called PO, it should be equal to D1 divided by KE minus G. That means, and that is a formula which has been derived from, the initial formula is PO is equals D1 plus P1 divided by 1 plus KE. I know these are jargons which we use in mathematics, but it's important to know that there is a formula to calculate the price of a share of a listed company in Nairobi Security Exchange, New York Security Exchange, Johannesburg Security Exchange, and the formula is one. The treatment of malaria in Kenya is the same treatment dosage in America, in Europe. Don't come and confuse people here that there is no formula. That's why I also would like to challenge Mheshimiwa, even Ndung'u. He said this, that the share of Safaricom should cost 45. That is not the standard way of measuring. That because a share was costing 45 shillings in 2021, does not mean that you sell it today, because the market in Nairobi Security Exchange is under the supply and demand forces. So whether it was costing 45, in fact, the question should be, why has it gone down? When you are the chairman of budget, you should ask people, is it the economy which was going down, or what happened? But that one is not even answer that question. The question is, we have formulas that we use to calculate all this. So for us to get out of this problem, the president has said the alternative is this. We are not going now to borrow on development expenditure, which are long term. There are other options which could have been given. And the president has said we need to have National Infrastructure Fund, we have securitization, we have PPP, public-private partnership. I will explain all of them. We have what we call a National Infrastructure Fund. Now here, when you have privatization, securitization, public-private partnership, then National Infrastructure Fund, we are saying this. Instead of waiting for Safaricom, for example, there is this, to connect this National Infrastructure Fund, we have this money we are getting from Safaricom. Our share in Safaricom, we get 16 billion every year. As GOK, Government of Kenya, get 16 billion every year from Safaricom. But now, this is not likely not to change for the next 20 years. We're going to get this. Now, when you are doing prudence, when you are doing financial management, you ask yourself, do you have another alternative that instead of waiting for this 16 billion, let us divest, and then we sell 15% of our 35% share in Safaricom. This 15% we are sharing, we are saying instead of waiting to get 6 billion every year, you will multiply this by 28 years for us to get 206 billion. So for us to wait that, in the financial management, in economics, we say money today is better than being given that money tomorrow. So instead of waiting for 28 years from today,
the value of money.
The value of money. It's called thank you. It's called the time value of money. Time value. Time value means you are measuring.
I have some little economics.
I can understand. I can see now. I don't know why you do not. You ought to have raised that issue when we had the public participation. But by the way, I went. If you go to Parliament, I went to participate when we are doing the public participation during at KICC. When we had the public participation on the Safaricom divestiture of the 15% Safaricom shares of GOK, so Government of Kenya. So what now alternative I'm answering your question is, instead of waiting to get 6 billion every year, next year 6 billion, that year 6 billion, why don't we get 206 billion today? We invest. In fact, there is a formula that we use to calculate whether it is commercially viable to get this 206 billion today than waiting 6 billion every time. If you wait 206 billion and want to construct, so for example, a building, which is, say, a building of 206 billion, it will take you 206 28 years. For you, by the time you are given this money, 206 billion in 28 years, the inflation will be very high. So you will not be able to get the same building you could have constructed before. So that is how we do the finance. We use a formula called the future value of annuity. Annuity is the money you are getting every year. For example, the 6 billion, it's annuity. There's a formula we can. I've even done a calculation for that Safaricom, and I shared that with the chairman of finance, Kimani Kuria, the chairman of finance in Parliament. KK. There is a formula that we use. We usually say if you want to know whether you should get 6 billion today, this 206 today, instead of waiting for the 28 days, we use a formula called PVA. PVA's present value of annuity. The present value of annuity is equals to A. You close the bracket. I'm saying this for the sake of the Ndindi-Nomics, the neurons to understand. This 206 billion is very much important to us as a country, because if he can, he will go back to the books and he will see this, that we calculate by this. We say present value is equals to A into bracket 1 minus into bracket 1 plus R over M, close that bracket, raised to the power of negative MT. Then you divide that by R over M. You close that bracket from after A, then you multiply by 1 plus R over M. That formula will explain why we need to get this 206 billion today instead of waiting to get that money 6 billion every year. Economically speaking, if you get this money at the university today, 206 billion, in the next 28 years, the money that you could have gotten from Safaricom, it will be double where you invest. Using the same interest rate that you can calculate you are getting this money from. So economically speaking, when you do this privatization for the already mature, note this word, already mature investment. When something has matured, it cannot go beyond that. Safaricom, for it to increase this kind of rate within the competition, whether locally or internationally, it is very hard for it to go beyond this. It can increase, but with a very small margin, or sometimes come down. So when you have mature investment, you're protecting yourself. And what are you doing with this? Instead of waiting for Gen Z, the young people to wait for 28 years, who will be a very old, when a Gen Z who is 20 years, after 28 years, he will be 48, will be 50. So you not help that person. What you do, get this 206 billion, which your government could have gotten 28. Then you build AI center. This Gen Z will have immediately somewhere to go and work. Get this 206, put it in National Infrastructure Fund. Use it as a seed capital to attract the equity from private equity, whereby people will come and partner with this SPV, so that we have what we call the nuclear power plant in Siaya. We increase our capacity from 2,300 megawatts against 12,000 megawatts in Singapore, where there are only 6 million people. They have 12,000 megawatts of electricity production. When in Kenya, we have 2,300.
And actually, the president mentioned that when he was preaching for investment out there, I think in the US, when he was doing the state visit, there were some investors who were interested in investing in Kenya, but when they looked at their power capacity, and you could not support that investment. Yes. But anyway, quickly, because we have 10 minutes on the left,
yes.
There's something that I want you to help us understand, because it's also a new concept for me.
Yes.
The issues of securitization.
Thank you.
And when you look at Talanta Stadium, for instance, it has been built courtesy of securitization, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. And
there has been an argument, even from your friend Ndindi, that you mentioned, your fellow economist.
Yes.
And he has said that we have built Talanta Stadium at a cost far more higher than even Wembley. Is it Wembley or
He's talking about Old Trafford in
the UK.
Yes, the
Manchester City headquarters.
Yes, yes.
So he said we have built it at multiple costs than Old Trafford. Yes. So first of all, make us understand what securitization is and what exactly, how is it better than us either borrowing loans or taxing Kenyans to build this? What is securitization? And secondly, is it true that we have actually built Talanta Stadium at a cost multiple times than Old Trafford in the UK? Man, we want to kill Kenyans.
Great question. You know, everybody has gone to school, eh? And I want now to start, first of all, what is securitization? Securitization, I have heard, saying that when he was presenting this fuel proposal, that he's coming knowing there is no securitization. You know, as a legislature, if you go to Constitution, by the way, this money is even allowed in the Constitution. It's only that I will not tell Mheshimiwa where it is, because he has to let him go to the Constitution. Securitization
atafuta mwenyewe
atafuta hapo kwa katiba iko hapo. Hii mambo ya securitization anajua. Maybe he is very busy in other things. He does not know. But I can go to the Constitution where securitization, in that securitization is allowed. I'm in the national media. Yes. I can go to the Constitution, only that I am not going to educate MP on that, because he will take advantage of that. That one I not, but it is there. But one day I will prove it. But I can prove it if we can be with him. Then I open the Constitution. That will be okay.
I'm sure he's watching it.
I know he's watching. So if he want to challenge me,
so indeed, he has a challenge here that Ndung'u Mirii is challenging you to a one-on-one on economics 101. So if you take the challenge, you know me, you can reach out to me, then I can arrange that for the benefit of the Kenyans and the public.
Securitization. Thank you. Now, this one, securitization is this. Securitization, again, this thing, securitization, people think that this word is coming from money which has been in the government. But the question is, securitization is saying there is money which has been charged in this country. For example, the road maintenance levy, RML, road maintenance levy has been there. But the question, there's also sport levy. Now the question is, Kenyans should ask themselves, it is even good that we have this word. Can you tell us, are you telling us it's a levy you have come up with, or it has been there? It has been there. The question is, can MP Ndung'u take us through where this money, Spotify, was going? Because what is securitization is, there is money which has been charged in our taxes, which was going in a fund. In this country, we have so many funds in the Constitution. We have one called the Consolidated Fund. Then we have other special fund. Consolidated Fund is where all our taxes go. The National Ordinary Tax Revenue go, and A in A. But there are some other, through Act of Parliament or through in our Constitution, which were created that we have other special funds like the Youth Enterprise Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, Sport Fund, the road maintenance levy, all those funds are there. This securitization issue of Talanta Stadium, for example, let us go to that. There is a money called Sport Fund. Sport Fund has been there even before, and it has been contributing in that sport. The work of that money was to do repairs of our stadium, our sport whatever.
So before you go to that, just for us to be very clear,
yes.
Has it built any stadium before?
It has not done that, and that's the question we need to ask ourselves. Where has this money been going? Is where President Ruto came and said, wait a minute, this Spotify, and that is where the corruption was going on, because this money has been misused, that they are doing some repairs here and there. But now the president has said, this money, instead of having some repairs which you cannot account for, let us have at least some stadiums which are going on every year, so that now from there we are able to see where this money is going. This money has been there. If it is wrong, what MP Ndung'u is saying, let him explain to Kenyans how much money was being contributed in this pot fund, and because he has been a chairman of budget, he break down what this money was building. The president has said, instead of misusing this money bit by bit, where people can corrupt this money through corruption and all other deals, and misusing the public money, let us build something Kenyans can see. This pot fund is going to this stadium. That's the only stadium we have had. Any other project which has done, I'm daring. Even MP Ndung'u, who has been the chairman. I'm speaking that as a chairman of budget and appropriation committee. Break it down to Kenyans where this money was going. That one I've given you a challenge. Number two, there is this pot fund, there is that argument, that securitization there means this. Instead of this levy putting them some more money, then we say we have done this repair here, where Kenyans cannot see. This securitization is saying, let us use this money in one project so that as we continue, we finish with this project, this stadium, another stadium, and then we can see where our money is going. That is what we call securitization. You say this money that we are going to collect in the next year, in that other year, instead of somebody waiting to come and corrupt that money, now what President Ruto has done, he has said there is no opportunity for you to come and steal this money for one or corrupt this money. So what President Ruto has done is to close that hole, that gap, that there's nobody will come and get the opportunity to get this money, because already this money has a stadium where our young people, our youths have somewhere to go and now develop their talent. That is what we call securitization. You get this money again, you say, let us not wait for, because we have looked at all in the past, where have you been taking this money? So the president has said, since we are not seeing this money where it has gone, now we want now to securitize this money. It will not come to in your account. Let us have this stadium, let that money be going there where young people can go. Or you tell us where this money was going, how has young people been benefiting? Now the money is there in stadium, what we call the revenue. We have not added tax. The tax was corrected anyway. Where it was going is where President Ruto has asked, where has this money been going? A simple question. If that can be answered, even by our honorable MP Ndung'u, can you come and tell us, this stadium is this amount. The other money constructed so as the stadium, so as where it was going. If you show us that, then we can listen. But if you stop from where the money was going, you don't want to tell us where the money was going, but you are asking us to a stadium which we are seeing, then even it is even a bit logic, because you are explaining to us something that is physical, we can see. You are avoiding to explain to Kenyans where this money was going before. So securitization is saying this spot fund, which has been anyway charged as a levy in our tax regime, then that money go to that stadium. The other misinformation he has, I have heard from the United Opposition, the likes of Ndung'u. I even had even the senator from Nyandarua, John Medo, saying that he has traveled to the Radan in Manchester, and he found that even our Talanta has costed more than the Manchester United Stadium. Then I wondered, which Manchester is that? He said, the Manchester I know in London. If it is that one, let me now explain to them, maybe those who have explained from that angle, that the Kenya Stadium, and I don't understand why a member of Parliament, Ndung'u, can say that Talanta Stadium has costed more than Manchester United, including the Senator of Nyandarua, John Medo, Honorable John Medo. Because, let me educate them now. Talanta Stadium has a capacity of 60,000 seating capacity. The Manchester Stadium they are talking about in London had a capacity of 70,000 capacity, seating capacity. Our stadium, Talanta here, has costed, they are saying it has costed 44 billion, plus they are saying about 100 interest rate on this securitization loan, so it will be 400, it will be 140 billion. So it will be over 100 because 44 billion is the cost. Then 100 they are saying is interest. I want to be very factual here. This issue of this money is in the next 15 years. Now, let us now compare the two stadiums. If this is what they are complaining, let me educate them a bit. The Manchester Stadium was constructed when? It was constructed in 1910. Tell Ndung'u to write that down, and Senator MP Ndung'u and Senator John Medo, so that they, I don't know which field maybe they are very good at, but the Manchester United was constructed in 1910. In fact, even we had not even become officially the colony of British. We are still, I don't know where we are. In fact, we are still around, we are still moving, getting bearing from Congo forest there in the Cameroon coming down here. So
Sudan.
we are Sudan. I don't know where we are. In fact, I don't know. That's a different story of another day. But what I'm saying is this. The Manchester United was constructed in 1910. The cost of the field then, if you go to, they have detail. Then they were developed the country even that time. They had this document. That stadium costed that time in 1910. It costed them 60 million sterling pound. If you convert this money from 1910 up to today, let me tell you, from 1910 to today, that is 115 years. There is something we call the future value of money.
60 million?
Yeah, 60 million sterling pound. And that is then, That is then. So there is something that we usually compute, There is something that we usually calculate. And we ask ourselves, what is the future value of money? If you take that 60 million then, in 1910, sterling pound then. If you use what we call the future...
At that time, in 1910.
At 1910, that is 115.
9.9 billion Kenyan shillings.
9.9 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, if you go... 1910.
My mic was off.
9.
So in 1910,
yes,
it was 9.9 billion Kenyan shillings.
Kenyan shillings.
In 1910.
In 1910.
And the Kenyan shilling was not existing then.
It was not even existing. But now the question is even this one. If this is the money that it costed, now we can ask ourselves, if a 70,000 capacity sitting costed 60 million sterling pound then. If you do what we call the future value of money, how do we compute the future value of money is equals to PV, that is the present value, you close the bracket, you multiply by 1 plus R over M, you close this bracket, you raise to the power of MT. If we now compute this using the compounded inflation rate of our country, like 10%, for example, 10% inflation rate. If we look at from 205 to even during Kibaki, the inflation rate in Kenya, what we call not for fuel or the core inflation. If you look at the aggregate inflation rate in Kenya, it was around 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's the inflation rate. So even if you use 10% as an inflation rate, as a compounding interest, you realize that that stadium, if you calculate like today, the money that they spent or the money they can use today to construct the same field, which they spent that time, as we use, here we have...
So you also have to look at the standard.
At the standard.
The standard, because now
the
standard even modern.
Is not even the one we have now. But let us even assume we do the same. Yeah. Let us even not improve the writing. The way it was, the chair was a tipper. There were not even a good aeration like the one we have here.
The stones are from the bush.
You cannot even... But let us even assume that they constructed the same that was there in 1910. If you construct this stadium, it will cost 220 billion. 220 billion. If you compute with all mathematics, I would like to sit down with anybody who would like to challenge me on that. We do the international, using what we call IFRS, International Financial Reporting System, or GAAP in accounting standard, the generally accepted accounting principle, which is used in America, in the US. The IFRS is mostly used by 160 countries globally, mostly used in Europe. IFRS, International Financial Reporting System. And then we have the GAAP, the Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, that's used in America. If you come and compute the money which was spent during that stadium in Manchester, then you compute how much is it today. It will be 220 billion. As we will use, even if you add, that is today. Now we are using 44 billion. How do you compare 220 billion with 44 billion which you are spending? In fact, let me tell you, Talanta Stadium has costed the lowest. That stadium is very effective in terms of financial, if you calculate that financially speaking. The issue of paying the interest, it is common sense. We do not have money today. So what we are doing, we are securitizing this, what I've told, the small money we are getting for Spotify, we say instead of waiting for all these years, for us to get the 220 billion or the 144 billion we are saying, it will construct. It will take us, we will not be in this life, actually. Yeah. This generation we have died. The next generation you have died. So the other generation is the one which will come to do a stadium.
And
so
the money will not also be enough because we'll also be eating the money now.
And we are eating the money. There is inflation. That money is losing value. So that calculation, let me now explain to Kenya something. There is this stadium which is now constructed by the same Manchester. There is Manchester Old Trafford. Now they are constructing what we call the Manchester New Trafford. New Trafford. Old Trafford and New Trafford. If you go to the current one which they are doing just next to the Old Trafford, and the Kenyans, today we are in the internet. Just Google the Manchester United New Old Trafford and the New Trafford. You realize they are just next. From here you just close. You can even see. They are not going to refurbish this one. They are doing the new one. At what capacity? 100,000 capacity seating. At what cost? Right there, Kenyans now. If that is true, what the Ndung'u was saying and John Meadow and the team from the United Opposition. Now, right there, they are going to spend 2 billion sterling pound, or is an equivalent to $2 billion US. How much is that? Just take a calculator. The New Trafford now, which is going to take 5 years, from now up to 2028, we are in 2026. They are saying by 2028, 2029, 2030, it will be done. They are going to do a new Trafford. New Trafford. It will cost $2.6 billion US, or an equivalent of 2 billion sterling pound. Just Google, you see what I'm saying. The capacity is 100,000 seating. Let us discuss this, by the way, because this is now today. Because the one for 1910, maybe the likes of Ndung'u and Senator John Meadow, they are not understanding 1910 how to compute. Let us use the one which is now we are doing at Talanta Stadium. If they are using this money, how much is this money in Kenya savings? Can you change this money they are going to spend for 100? Then we can do ratio. Ours is 60. What is 60% of this? Then we see how much they are spending for 60 capacity, because 100 is consuming 2.6. These are the things I want to discuss with the MP Ndung'u. Fact. Because this will be equivalent to 338 billion. 338 billion today, Kenya shillings. That is what they are going to spend on this new Trafford. At this capacity. Ours is 60,000. So what is 60,000 out of 100? That is 60%. So what is 60% of 338? It means if we are to go with the standard of Manchester, New Trafford, it means our 60,000 capacity should cost us 220 billion Kenya shillings. This stadium would have costed, if you do this in UK, they have constructed 60 capacity in the New Trafford using 220 billion, as we have spent 44 billion. Of course, I now go back to say, maybe some of the amenities there, they are a bit higher than us. But using logic, you can ask yourself relatively.
But since they are using also the comparative, then we...
if they are using if we now use the comparative, that rules. Is the point.
Okay.
So I have at least debunked that this stadium is not constructed or did not cost us more than what costed the Manchester Old Trafford. And you can do that calculation using the one they are constructing now, using the capacity, which is the New Trafford, and the capacity of Talanta today, and how much it's costing them for a capacity of 60. Then you can do that calculation. Those people who like numbers, mathematics, finance, economics, you can do that. Economically, we are doing very good in terms of the cost effectiveness and the value for money of our public finance under this administration.
Thank you so much. We have really overshot on time, so I'll just give you 30 seconds to give your recap. We call it the tackle of the day. So you give us your final remarks. We call it tackle of the day. You can do a punch. Give us your last punch.
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate for you even having time to invite me here. I know these are opportunities which are not very available, But for even giving Kenyans, I'd like to thank you for giving Kenyans the opportunity for them to have people who will come and discuss matters, so that the people who are doing misinformation, disinformation, we can come here and then debate and challenge even this fact, so that if somebody is really meaning what he's saying, then you need to get an equal person who can be able to challenge what he's saying academically, financially, and even accounting-wise, using the international standard method that we have. For me to finish, I would say that Kenyans, we have a great country. And this country, we also need to understand that some of these politicians who are speaking to us, they have a lot of self-interest. So the best thing we can do, as we were discussing today, just interrogate numbers, interrogate your constitution, what does it say? Interrogate don't listen to what he's saying and then you keep quiet. When he tells you something, tell him to quote. Is it the constitution? Is it the Auditor General report? Any person who will mention anything, ask them, where can I get that information? What does the Auditor General report say? What does the Constitution say? If we interrogate all these issues using the national instrument that we have, the Constitution and all the other institutions that we have in the country, then I think from that time, we will be able to appreciate. The last thing I will say is that Kenyans, let us embrace peace. Let us try to solve all these problems without violence and with cohesion. National integration and cohesion is a very, very important thing. At this point, this politician would like to confuse you, and that is why they are bringing all these whole issues of finance bill. They did not know finance bill existed, but now they know. What they are doing, they are distracting you from asking why are we paying this 1.3 trillion on public debt? So because they know at the point you ask this question, they are trying to distract you from thinking or asking yourself the past questions, where this money went. If we wanted to heal this problem of economy, we need to go back to the basics, the foundation of this problem, so that now, as we solve this problem, let anybody not come to pretend that he's on your side. And when he was not on this side, he was not speaking the way he's speaking. To finish on this, I would ask every Kenyan, wherever you are, to embrace cohesion and what we call the national integration and cohesion. The moment we treat the cohesion of our country, the integration of our country, as what we call economically as an opportunity cost, then we lose it. Because the cost of peace of this country is too huge, more than the economic we can do. So when we have a cohesion and integration in our country, even as we look at all these things, let us embrace that cohesion, integration, because we cannot afford to treat our national integration and cohesion as an opportunity cost. That we'll discuss that about opportunity cost another day. But it's an area that we need to make sure that we embrace that cohesion. Without integration, without peace, this economy cannot grow, because peace is the one which gives you an opportunity even to ask this question we are asking. It is within that context of cohesion and integration that this country will be able even to put effort on this journey that our President, His Excellency President Ruto, has told us we need to think about the Singapore journey. And that point, as I finish that, Kenyans, I want you to understand what the President is telling you is not that he's taking Kenya to Singapore. He's telling you, you have seen even those people who are in the opposition, they usually take an aeroplane and they go to London. And you see them. What President Ruto is telling you, you need to open up your mind that there are some other big things in this world which are done. These people are telling you, are trying to distract you from understanding the context. The context is not that we are taking Kenya to Singapore. No, he's telling you we need to think to have a mentality of Singapore, where there are only 6 million people with a GDP of 70 to 80 trillion, when we have 55 million people with a GDP of 17 trillion. And actually, as I finish, and I want to finish this, next time we will discuss about the global economics. Yes. Because we need to ask ourselves, why are we so doing poorly after 63 years when a country like France, for example, the president of France was here just the other day, and France has a population of 66 million people. Do you imagine 66 million people, they have a GDP which is bigger than the whole of Africa? Just that country, one country with 66 million people, the GDP of France only is $3.1 trillion. The GDP of the whole of Africa, with 54 president, deputy president, governors, devolution in Kenya, South Africa, Morocco, all the way, the GDP for Africa is $2.85 trillion. How come 66 million people, they are able to generate a GDP of 1 year bigger than the 1.58 billion people in this continent. You know, when you think about that, you can see the level of economic growth. We are very much far much ahead. That President Ruto is saying we need now to change this mentality and we think outside the box using this national infrastructure fund, create what we call the sovereign wealth fund. Let us have privatization. Let us have what we call the PPP. Let us have the privatization. We leverage on what already we have. In economics, you usually leverage. Without leveraging on this money, President Ruto is saying, if we stay here getting debt, which we are being corrected by the other Jubilee government, is the one now which is costing us this. In fact, why you always say that there was money during the Jubilee government is because they are taking loan. They are not taking you. It is loan you are taking. Then they buy you a lot of pop. So you can enjoy. By the time now they have left, they have told you eat a lot of pop. You are achieving. Now you have to pay that plus interest. You ask you, who told you to give me a lot of pop? Why were you giving me Kazi Mutahani? We cut the grass. We thought this money is coming from Kenya. So you borrowed the money to give me Kazi Mutahani. So I'm paying with interest. The grass that I cut on the road, how much am I gaining there? The grass has already come up. Now President Ruto has said, instead of getting money and give you jobs which are not for future, long term, President Ruto is saying, let us get affordable housing. So that now you can see affordable housing. If you have in that house, you never construct another house because you are living in it. Instead of paying rent, President Ruto has said, convert that rent to what we call mortgage repayment per month. So that in the next 20 years, the rent that you have been paying, it will become your house. You are paying your house instead of paying rent that you never own. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Ndung'u, Mirii, for making time this morning and for sharing your knowledge. It's really a privilege to have you and to have more Kenyans as well who are willing to share their knowledge with the public and ensure they can enlighten the general public so they can be more knowledgeable to make personal decisions. Because without information, most of the time, we have conflict. Actually, the presence of conflict is the absence of information. So the more information we have and the more enlightened we are, the better the country is and the better the questions that we can ask. You know, sometimes unakuuliza maswali unashindwa sasa huyu hii ni maswali gani unaniuliza. It's because the general public most of the time has not been informed, especially on public affairs. And the fact that we can actually have these discourses on very important national decisions is a great way forward as a country that we can ventilate on matters that really affect all of us. Thank you for the viewers who have been with us all through for the last 2 hours. It's always a pleasure to have you. And remember that you can still watch this podcast on YouTube, Did a Tackle. You can still watch and please share with your friends and family so that we can have a more informed society. Until next week, it's been a pleasure having you. Always is. And this is The Tackle. And we are out. Bye-bye. We love you.